We are here on YouTube, ByTheMinute.co and iTunes. If you're on YouTube, you'll see we have a guest with us today, fighting next Saturday on the UFC 209 card. Amanda Bobby Cooper, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I kind of wanted to ask you a couple of things about your career and your entry into mixed martial arts. So, how long have you been training for your goal to get into the UFC?
Well, I guess my journey started when I was 11. I had my first boxing match. And then, I progressed from there and I won Golden Gloves twice. I went to nationals and regionals. And then the boxing got quite boring, so I transferred into MMA in 2010. So since then, I've been fighting MMA and training MMA.
Okay, yeah. I take it you'll not be one of the many who's making the transition from MMA to boxing at the moment then, since that seems to be the in thing.
And no, no, not at all.
So, just wanted to ask about your journey towards the Ultimate Fighter house as well, because obviously you had a fight in a win in King of the Cage, then there was a loss in Invicta to Aspen Ladd. Now, when I see Aspen Ladd, she seems to me like someone who should have been fighting a bantamweight. You fought her at flyweight, is that correct?
Yeah, I fought her at flyweight, and I woke up the morning of weigh-ins underweight and had to eat to weigh in. It was, I think, that's when I decided I needed to go to 115. I took the fight at 125 because I had surgery and I gained a bunch of weight, like not athletic weight. And then once I signed the contract, I started losing weight and realizing that my body naturally needs to be lower. And then I took that fight and I lost, and I decided to drop down to 115.
Yeah, and then quickly after that was the invitation to the Ultimate Fighter house. Now, for
Yeah.
me, I spoke to Jorge Mondanka at UFC 204, who seems to have a little bit of insight into the Ultimate Fighter house. But I think for a lot of people, especially myself, we don't really know what the atmosphere is like in that. Like, how is the setup when you're in the tough house?
I feel like it's probably different every season or whoever's in it. I know probably more people had a better time than other people. It just depends on who you are. I loved it. I thought the atmosphere was great. I just realized that it was kind of hard to, I had to keep reminding myself that this is just for a short period of time. Like, these people are not my real training partners. They're not my friends. This isn't my life. That I had a different life, and you can get caught up in it. You spend all day, every day with these people for 6 weeks, with no, you don't have your family, you don't have your friends, you don't have your coaches, you have nothing. And so, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it was the best experience of my life so far.
So how long does filming last when you're in the tough house, and how regularly do you fight? Because when you're in the house, obviously there's like the prelim fight, then the quarterfinal, then the semi-final. How long is that squeezed into?
Well, it depends on if you're picked first. Like the fights to get into the house was on like a Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday we had someone fight, and obviously I didn't pick, I wasn't picked, but I had to fight 3 weeks later, and then from that day I had a fight in a week and a half. So I went from one fight, and then 3 weeks later having a fight, and then a week and a half having a fight.
Yeah, and what's the dynamic like when you get split into the teams as well? Obviously, you went on to Claudia Gadella's team,
Yeah.
and then when you guys went through the first round, you went 7-1. Is
Yeah.
there is it can it be quite difficult when you get to that point where you know you're, because the women's strawweights went 4-0 as well, so you knew you were going to have to go through teammates to win the semi-final and the final. Is that difficult, or is it just sort of part of the experience?
Yeah, I knew kind of once our first two girls won that we had, we still have picks, so I had a feeling that we're going to win them all and we're going to have to fight each other. So the entire time training, I'm like, I trained with them still. I didn't know who I was going to fight, but it didn't matter because I'd already been training with them.
Yeah.
Once the fights were picked, we kind of split up and trained differently. Like I trained with some of the guys instead of the girls because, and we had to do our own thing. We didn't really have our coaches there much anymore. They were there to hold pads, but they didn't want to coach because they didn't want to be influence the other person.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, obviously, you got to the final. You faced Tatiana Suarez at the finale. Oh, it was a couple of days before UFC 200, wasn't it? It was the day before. It was the
Day
Friday
before,
night.
yeah.
Friday night, yeah. And obviously, Tatiana's Tatiana got you with a Darce choke towards the end, and what was a pretty entertaining fight to watch, to be honest, and a pretty competitive fight. But did you? I suppose nowadays it's a little different when you go back to the Ultimate Fighter one, where you think if you lose the final, you're. But it's got to be a very big moment to lose that. fight?
Yeah. I mean, like, so like the worst day is, fight and stuff. Like when you think your dream comes true, and I love it. Good thing from it. And I've had my second fight up, and she hasn't fought yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just my journey. It doesn't have to be the one I, initially wanted, but it's still a good journey for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you moved on to Belfast in November. Another very entertaining fight against Anna Elmos. We had Anna on the show about 2 or 3 weeks before Belfast, and for this fight, I kind of felt like what I kind of felt when I watched the fight, and I haven't watched it back yet, so I'm going back on about 4 months of memory. But I kind of felt that in all 3 rounds, I felt you were edging all 3 rounds for about 4 minutes, and then in the first round, she dropped you when you threw the left kick. It wasn't the hardest shot I've ever seen, but it was one of those where you're a little off balance. But that probably wrapped her up the first round, and in the second round, when you got into full mount and got the ground and pound and you pulled the arm bar, do you think if you'd had 5 seconds that would have been finished?
If I was in the armbar, probably not. Just I mean, I don't expect her to tap within 5 seconds. It's just like
Yeah.
you heard the 10-second bell. You have time. So
Yeah.
But I have finished a fight with 1 second left in a round before. That was my first pro win with 1 second left. So like it obviously can be done. I like actually throw subs a lot. If I'm in a good position and I hear the 10-second bell, I'm like, might as well go for it. You never know. So maybe if I had a little bit of time, it was belly down, so it was probably going to be pretty tight.
Yeah, it looked kind of tight, but it seemed just as you extended it was as soon as the buzzer sounded. So onto the third round, I felt Anna kind of slowed down a little bit, and you were really able to show off your boxing background there, and were able to strike from distance. There was a side kick as well that landed flush to the chin, which looked pretty sweet. Did you feel once you were into the third round, even if there was a little bit of doubt about round one, that this was absolutely your fight?
Yeah, I thought my coaches kept yelling at me to get a takedown. I know what that means. They think it's a close fight and they want me to get a takedown just so I, edge out that. But I felt like I'd won everything, and it was, I felt good on my feet. I didn't, feel like she was outstriking me at all. So obviously I preferred to be standing, so I just kept it standing. My coaches are yelling at me to take her down. I'm like, no, I got this. And then, towards the end of the fight, I felt the takedown, took it down, and I didn't feel like I had the fight. Or I mean, I didn't feel like I had the fight lost. I feel like it was all mine.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things when you're looking at how to score the fight. It was like even if you gave Anna the first round, there was no permutation that you could give her a second or the second or the
right.
third
Yeah,
round. So
I didn't think it was possible.
yeah, I didn't think it was possible. So, so afterwards, Dan Hardy comes into the octagon. I'm sure you're sick of hearing about this, to be honest.
No, it's.
So you obviously said to Dan Hardy that you were really disappointed he wasn't Joe Rogan. So it caused a bit of, I think, unnecessary offence with some people. I think Dan took it quite well, but
yeah, I tweeted him and apologized because I was like, nothing against you. I just I love Joe Rogan, and my coaches and my will always say like, once you win, you get to talk to Joe Rogan. You get to talk to Joe Rogan when you win. I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to talk to Joe Rogan when I win. And I won in Belfast, and I didn't even think that he wasn't there. All of a sudden, like Dan Hardy's interviewing me, and I'm like, oh my god, why isn't this Joe Rogan? I won. I don't understand. And I made a dumb comment about him not being Joe Rogan. But I did say, I'm not sorry I'm not talking to him, but I just wish he was Joe Rogan. So people didn't like it, but I don't know what else to do.
These things, and I can remember because I went back into the arena to watch the fight, and I was walking up the stairs, and I heard the comment, and I kind of laughed, and I think it came across. It was weird to describe, but it came across a bit to the crowd, just a bit so dry that everybody kind of looked around like.
Did she just say that? Yeah. My friends and family think it's funny because they know me. They're like, oh, that was so funny. That was great. I'm like, no one else knows me, so they don't think it was funny.
Yeah, there was a few of those kind of examples of your sense of humor when we did the media scrum in the press room, because just as a story, Kevin Lee came in, even though he fought right after you. Kevin Lee came into the media scrum before you. Mm-hmm. And when he came in was the Kyoji Horiguchi Ali Bagatinov fight, and Kevin Lee started ranting and raving about Habib and about Conor and about taking on the whole end. And I thought this was fun, but the Habib fight so not the Habib, the Bagatino Horiguchi fight was going on. So I went to the other end of the room to cover it, and I could still hear Kevin Lee ranting at the other end of the room.
Yeah,
So
me too. I was like embarrassed. I'm like,
yeah.
oh my god, shut up, Kevin, shut
So,
up.
so I came back after a couple of rounds, and there was a TV right in front because the press room in Belfast was massive as well, and I could still hear Kevin at the other side of the room. And so then you went in for your media scrum as well, and that kind of dry sense of humour came out then, I thought, as well, when there was a guy who asked the question, and he said, "We're not really a mixed martial arts site," and you just went, "Is it porn?" or something
I know.
like that. And I was like, yeah. So
I my dad always told me like just be myself, and like
yeah.
I was happy because I just won, and like when I'm like in a weird, like I was just saying things that I wasn't thinking about or having a filter.
These things happen, don't they? Just be. The thing you've got to say though is just be yourself. If it's a dry sense of humour, who cares? If some people don't get to, who cares? But so going on to this Saturday, do you know what position you're going to be on the card by any chance?
I'm in like the prelims on Fox Sports, or I mean on Fight Pass. So
On
like
Fight Pass.
the beginning level, stage 1, and there's stage 2, and then there's the main card.
Okay, so UFC Fight Pass on Saturday night. You'll be taking on Cynthia Calvillo. I think I've butchered her name, but I'll be fine.
I do it.
Yeah. I watched her fight at LFA 1 against Montana Stewart, and she looks ready for the UFC. What do you think of Cynthia as an opponent for next Saturday?
Yeah, I definitely think that she's ready for the UFC. There's she's undefeated as an amateur and undefeated as a pro. I've actually trained with Montana before, so it was cool to watch that fight. But she's good everywhere. She's not doesn't have an area where she's bad at. But I don't think that I think she's better in some areas than some. But she's not like, wow, she's super dangerous on the feet or super dangerous on the ground. I think she's a good fight for me. I like standing. I fought a lot of people like her, so it makes sense for the matchup for me. And it's I just think it's a great fight for both of us. I've watched her fight. She comes to fight, and so do I. So I'm thinking fight of the night for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting matchup as well because at LFA in the first round, Montana Stewart was just going for takedown, takedown, takedown.
Yeah.
And Cynthia was able to just grab a couple of underhooks, just keep her standing, and then force Montana to have a stand-up fight with her after that. But then when it went to the ground, she looked pretty good, and I thought Cynthia, there was nothing that she was outstanding at, but everything was at a very good level.
Right,
so
and that's what makes a good fight. Is like
absolutely.
you don't. She's good, but she's not like you're not like fantastic at any area. She's decent. She's good at everything, so it makes a good fight because she is technical.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think I think the Fight Pass prelims we've got 3 at the moment. Obviously,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens come next Saturday because it seems every
Right.
time something drops out. But UFC Fight Pass at the moment, I think they're still doing the free weekend. So if you're, I basically my gimmick on this show is I spend the whole time either shilling Fight Pass or shouting at Dana White for a 125 women's division. But
Right.
we'll
Yeah.
come to that in a minute. I'm not even going to ask you about 125. I'm going to duck that just now. So on Saturday night, we're looking at UK time about 11:30 for the start of the prelims. So UFC Fight Pass, get on that. Have you got anybody in mind if this fight goes well for you? Have you got anybody in mind in the future?
I never think. I don't really like to think about next fights, or I don't even really have. My coaches will do it like in their head. I'm sure they know that people I'd like to fight or they want me to fight, but
Yeah.
I just try to go fight by fight. And actually, yeah, Cynthia, I had a different opponent for this fight, and Cynthia that opponent backed out, and it took about a month to find a new opponent. So good thing, they said that they would probably have to go outside the UFC to get someone that, can't say no, really. You don't have the option. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but no, I don't really have anyone in mind that I'd like to fight right now. Maybe after my fight, I'll think about it. But I don't try to watch a lot of the girls in my weight class in the UFC. I usually just ignore the fights just so I don't have to watch it. When I fight them, then I'll watch the fight. But until then, I don't need to see it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually did see you had the thing went up about a month ago that was saying fight announcement coming up soon, and then a bit of
Yeah,
so,
it was a couple of months I found out about. I was like, over the house soon. Nothing, you know, my opponent back out. A long time to find a place. But.
Yeah, Saturday, March the 4th, 209, the stuff going on hard, obviously, the rematch between the boy and Woodley got the Habib Nurmagomedov and Tony fight.
It's a good fight.
You look top on this card, this has got to be a really good night.
It is. It's a big, you know, I got fought, you know, on the prelims, pre-prelims, so I'm gonna be early and then sit and watch the fight. It's good.
That's actually that's quite good. Actually, I spoke to Brett Johns just after Belfast, and he was second on the card, and that was what he said. He basically came in, did his media scrum, and then just went and chilled out and watched the rest of the fights and had a blast. So
yeah, they always have, you know, they have food backstage and, like, you know, interviews and pictures and stuff. So after my fight, I wanted to go like explore and say hi to fans and stuff, but I was like stuck in the back for an hour doing media stuff. But I mean, it's so good.
Yeah. So just something I wanted to ask as well about your team, Scorpion Fighting System. It looks like from the outside, it looks like there's a lot of talent coming through. Is there any names that you'd like to drop that people need to look out for in the future from your team?
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of monsters. Actually, my teammate Alicia Zabatilla just fought in China this morning. Well, which would be their night, but she won in China and won a world title at. You know, she's just starting out her career, but we have a ton of guys too. Josh Beatle is one of the guys that comes to mind. He's a hard worker. He's super talented. Taylor Moore. There's so many people. We got a lot of females. We got like 15 girls that train with us. And I think only the 4 of them are pro, but they're making their way up there. So a lot of high-level women at our gym.
Yeah, so I saw there was a lot of people with like sort of 1-0 and 2-0 amateur records that.
Yeah, we got one heavyweight, Josh Frazier, he just won last night actually, and he's an exciting heavyweight. So you know, everyone always likes heavyweights, and I look forward to seeing what he does.
So February's been a pretty good month for Scorpion. Let's hope March can be the same for you. So kicking it off Saturday, March the 4th, we will have live coverage on By the Minute from the first prelim to the end. Obviously, as well, what we're going to do as well is we're going to do a post-fight show if you want to come on YouTube for that. But we'll wrap this up just now. Thank you very much, Amanda, for joining us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
And I hope you get to talk to Joe Rogan.
Me too, I will.
Nice one. Well, thank you very much, and we will speak to you. We're back tomorrow with Brett Johns, so we'll speak to you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.